I pretended to be an ordinary girl for as long as I could remember, and no one knew the truth. They assumed a 15-year-old knew nothing helpful and had detained me in a neighboring home, out of their way and safe from the fire raging through my family's estate. Though I hadn't seen the flames, smoke lingered on the cops and neighbors who'd come inside from the cold. That odor fed the smoldering doubt churning in my chest and made breathing difficult. I tried to extinguish my suffocating anxiety, but my suspicions of my father's involvement and my concern for my missing mother only grew during the 4 hours they fought the fire. Shortly before 9 that evening, a heavy-coated policeman came bustling in to tell Dad that the flames had at last been extinguished. The cop said nothing of finding Mom. So, terrified of being right, I decided to find her myself. I'd played for hours as a child in the Seidels' house, the same house that now confined me, and I remembered that the home's main floor bathroom occupied the same hallway as the door to their garage. No one guarded the bathroom, or the garage, as everyone was in and out the front door. The middle-aged cop assigned to secure my father's and my whereabouts had been perched at the kitchen bar overlooking the family room for as long as I had sat in my corner. Bright-eyed and talkative at first, his chin now rested in his hand. His half-closed eyes were weary with waiting. My escape plan was so simple, it was irresistible. He watched my slight form stand and draw near. Hey, can I use the bathroom?" I said, making a face. I placed a hand over my stomach. The aching in my bowels was real enough. It just had nothing to do with digestion. A typical teenage girl would have become hysterical at finding her mother missing during a house fire and made herself the center of attention. But I'd been a quiet and ideal inmate. And if I'd learned anything in my turbulent, short life, it was that most adults failed to suspect well-behaved kids of deceit. I banked on this cop having no problem with my request. My question roused the drowsy detective, who yawned and stretched before studying my face. A spark of fear struck my heart that he would discern my real intentions. My face tightened at the sight of the hallway entrance beyond him. Luckily, the subtle betrayal of my emotions seemed to enhance my deception despite the real source. The cop nodded and looked around, waving me past. His bored expression returned. My heart raced as the second phase of my plan unfolded. Unobserved in the hallway, I reached inside the bathroom and turned on its fan and lights. Closing the door with a soft click and a glance over my shoulder, I prayed the ruse would last long enough. I slipped unseen out the garage entry door at the end of the short hall. The buzz of voices from inside hushed with the sweep of the heavy doors closing. The smell of leaked oil, bagged leaves, and musty grass clippings floated on the stale, cool air. Directly across the dark space, feeble light filtered through the dusty curtains, covering a small paned window in the garage's side door. Not knowing how long I had, I didn't wait for my eyes to adjust. Hands out, I felt my way past car bumpers and bikes, silently cursing when my shin hit a pedal. Having crossed the garage, I found the doorknob and twisted. The wood door swung inward with a click. A sharp Michigan gale whipped my short brown locks as I stood on the threshold of freedom. I shivered in my thin polyester basketball jersey and shorts and realized my one miscalculation. Night had fallen, and with it, the temperature. I crossed my arms tightly against my chest and half-turned in debate. I could have returned to snatch a warm coat from the hall closet, but voices on the cold wind caught my ear and spurred my decision to plunge into the frosty night without delay. Arms pumping, I fell into a headlong sprint toward the muffled shouts. Moonlight lit the lot immediately adjacent to my family's estate, the lot between the Seidels' home and ours. We'd lived beside the Owens for a dozen years, but their heavily wooded 200-foot frontage had never seemed so expansive and hazardous. I avoided the small patches of illuminated ground, sticking to the shadows provided by a rippling canopy of dry leaves above me. In weeks, those same leaves would carpet the sweeping paths I now made beneath the maple and birch.